Child support can be a touchy subject for many mothers and fathers. An Atlanta man is pushing for laws to end what he calls paternity fraud. He's traveling the country meeting with legislators.
Carnell Smith is the founder of U.S. Citizens Against Paternity Fraud, and he is our guest tonight on CrossTalk. Carnell, what prompted you to start U.S. Citizens Against Paternity Fraud?
Because of my own personal experience in finding out that I was not the father of an 11-year-old child that turned out was not mine, I also found out there are over 1 million men in the same situation.
How has DNA testing helped fathers in paternity cases?
Well, since genetic testing has become available since 1993, it has allowed for men to find out the truth so that they won't unknowingly take on responsibilities for someone else's children.
Now tell us a little about what your organization actually does.
Okay, well, U.S. Citizens Against Paternity Fraud is an international advocacy group. We believe in educating the public and the legislators as well as the media that there is a trap within the family law and that most men are unaware of it until they find themselves in it.
Don't men have an obligation to protect themselves from this happening?
Well, to say it in that posture would mean that all men have the ability to know without testing that the mother is involved with more than one man. And I say that's impossible for a man to know that. So when you say a man should protect themselves, even a man who has used contraception can find out he's not the father because contraception often does fail. But the problem is if the mother's involved with 1, 2, or other men, this man has no idea and takes her word for it that he's the father.
Now you've been hosting group meetings with men in several states. What do you do at those meetings and what do you hope to accomplish?
Okay, I think that's a very fair question. The reason that I have these meetings, and it's not just men, it is mostly women that contact my organization trying to help their husbands, their sons, their fiancés, boyfriends. What we're looking to accomplish is to increase the level of public awareness that there is a problem, that many men have unknowingly taken on responsibility for someone else, and some of them have been deliberately duped.
You've also lobbied legislators across the country in an effort to gain attention to get laws put in place. What do the lawmakers think of the idea, and has anyone started any type of legislation?
The overwhelming consensus on the part of the legislators is that they're amazed that we even needed a law in the first place. And when they hear about the difficulties and the tragedies that affect the families of these men and the men themselves, that we've gotten overwhelming support in every state that I've testified in.
Now tell us about maybe one of the most tragic cases that you've heard since you've been talking to men across the country.
One of the most tragic cases that I have personally come across is a client who found out that 5 out of 7 children was not his after he found out his now ex-wife is married to her uncle, and lo and behold, he thinks that the remaining 2 children are not his. He's working 2 jobs, and he can't pay enough money to satisfy everybody. And the state says the fact that those 5 kids are not his and are most likely fathered by this other man, the truth doesn't matter.
Now let's put the financial part aside. What happens emotionally once a man discovers a child is not his?
I can tell you from firsthand experience, the man who has had a relationship with the child, he goes through a couple of cycles. One of those is a tremendous deep sense of loss, almost as if a child had died. They're quite surprised by the results of this. And then he reaches a point to where he starts to rationalize that there's no way the mother could have done this and not known. And there's a great sense of anger and rage. And then to try to get justice on this matter, he becomes disheartened to find out that the court will blame him for not looking at truth or testing earlier.
What about the children? How do you explain this to a child who has lived thinking a man is his father for years?
Excellent question, excellent question. In fact, for a man to talk with a child, many of the men find that it is dangerous for them to talk to the children. Since I have a member of our group, he was jailed for 179 days in Miami, Florida, for telling the child that he wasn't the father. Children are going to find out the truth anyway. And in fact, the truth is going to be the truth whether you find out 2 years from now or 10 years from now. There's going to be emotional harm to the man that finds out. The children are often going to find out and have some harm to them. But the fact still remains, the man and the child are in that situation because of their mother. And from a personal responsibility, we think we should get more mothers to tell the truth in the beginning.
Carnell Smith, director and founder of the U.S. Citizens Against Paternity Fraud. Thank you for joining us for Crosstalk.
Thank you, Karla. I appreciate the opportunity to be on Crosstalk.